Yo, what's up? Slip here, and today I'm bringing you a concept I've been thinking about for a while now. And that is a Greydwarf farm that doesn't use fire, it doesn't use wolves, but it uses Draugr Archers instead. Now, I'm not sure if I'm the first person to think of this idea. I wasn't able to find anything similar amongst the Valheim community, so if you know of anyone that has already done this, or just want to offer suggestions on how to improve the build, then please leave a comment below. Now, this Greydwarf farm works like any other, but I feel the cons heavily outweigh the pros. I mean, sure, you don't have to worry about finding 1-star or 2-star wolves to tame and breed. Oh my god! But the amount of Greydwarf spawners located near swamps seems to be very limited. On my server anyway. You also risk dying every time you run in to collect the loot. Not to mention, if one of your archers dies, you may have to go through lengthy measures in order to replace him, which inevitably increases the amount of time you have to spend on keeping this farm functioning to its maximum potential. From my experience, using the farm with wolves rather than Draugr Archers seems to be a lot more convenient and safe. Not to mention, you can use wolves for so many other things, and they're easily replaceable should something go wrong. This being said, why would you ever want to do something like this? And the answer is quite simple. I really don't know. I just thought it would be funny to enslave the creatures of the swamp to do my bidding. It's really up to you to decide which method you prefer. Now, before you even think about starting this build, there's one thing you need to do first. Craft the Abyssal Harpoon! Poon! This will make it incredibly easy to abduct Draugr Archers from their home and away from their families. Okay, you can stop now. Okay, moving on. Now that we have the necessary requirements, it's time to get to work. The first step in achieving this maniacal build is finding a Greydwarf spawner near a swamp. Like I mentioned before, spawners near the swamp are limited, so this can take an incredibly long time and you'll probably have to do an excessive amount of traveling and exploration like I did in order to find one. If you have the patience, you can use any dwarf spawner so long as it's on the same island as a swamp. You'll just have a further distance to drag each archer. Step 2. Digging out the spawner. The next step is similar to more traditional Greydwarf farms. You're going to want to dig a hole close to the spawner in order to trap the already spawned Greydwarves. This is so they don't bother you while you're working. The easiest way to do this is to place a fire near the spawner. The fire is there to scare off the Greydwarves so they don't slap you around while you dig their grave. Well, aside from shamans and brutes, they don't care about your silly little fires. When your hole is deep enough, you can delete the fire and knock the Greydwarves inside. Once that's done, you can safely dig out the pit around the spawner itself. How big you want this pit to be is up to you. It doesn't have to be extremely big, but it does have to be a decent size.
That's what she said.
Step 3. Making the Draugr pit. Once your pit is dug out, you'll want to dig 2 more pits on the sides of the spawner. This is where you're going to place your Draugr Archers. We want these pits to be a little higher up so your Draugr Archers can be safe from retaliating Greydwarves. Place a 2-meter pole alongside the wall of the pit, and that should be a good enough height. Jump up to the surface and mine down until you are even with the top of the pole. Once you're at the desired height, you can open up the space a little. I like to mine the Draugr pit out to match the length of the dwarf pit, and then I mine out about a width of 2 floor pieces. Once that's done, we need to add walls to stop the Draugrs from falling in with the Greydwarves. To do this, put down a 45-degree wood beam, like so. Then take a stake wall and position it in a way that it will lower into the ground. We want only the pointy bits of the wall to stick out just enough so that nothing can path over it. Once the first one is complete, destroy the beam and place another beam on top of the second stake near the end of the buried wall. You're aiming for this spot here. Now when you place another stake wall, it should snap onto the one that's already underground. Rinse and repeat until you've blocked off the entire edge. If you're having trouble placing the last wall, just sit down and it should give you the perfect angle to place it. Shout out to Firespark81 for this method. Now you just have to duplicate this on the opposite side, and then you're safe to let the Greydwarves out of their hole. Once done, you should have something that looks like this. Now for the fun part. Abducting Draugr Archers and throwing them into a pit where they will live out the rest of their lives farming resources for someone else. Before you venture out into the swamp, make sure you've got your harpoon with you. You can also bring stamina potions and tasty mead, but it's not required. When you arrive to the swamp, you'll need to find some Draugr Archers. They're usually roaming around and aren't too hard to find. The best way I've found in obtaining archers is locating a Draugr spawner. If you find one of these, then you're all set. Just kill anything that isn't an archer and wait for one to spawn. When one finally does, just harpoon them and drag them back to your pit. The journey back can be difficult and frustrating, so you're going to have to use your wits in order to kite the archers back. Things might seem like they're going fine until you launch an archer in outer space. Once you've successfully dragged them all the way to your pit, getting them in can be kind of tricky, but it's generally pretty easy. You want to position them on the side, jump in, and then they'll reluctantly slide in behind you. Sometimes they'll run around the side, but the end result is all the same. Rinse and repeat until you have the desired amount of archers inside. I recommend having at least 4 Draugr Archers total, 2 for each side. Oh, and did I mention you're probably going to die? Like, a lot? You're gonna die a lot.
Drop it.
Now just sit back, relax, and watch them do their thing. After a while of waiting, it's time to jump in and collect your loot. The Draugr are a salty people, and they're not going to be too happy with this new lifestyle you forced them into. So they're going to try and kill you every chance they get. Just slap on your beefiest of armor, eat your meatiest of food, jump in, and hope for the best.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
There you have it. That's how you build a Greydwarf farm using Draugr Archers. You can leave it how it is, or you can build a shelter as well to store your loot and keep it safe. It's also recommended to have a portal linked to your main base for easier transportation. Hopefully this guide was helpful, and if it was, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more useful tips and tricks, as well as gameplay. Also, drop a comment if you plan on implementing this build into your own Valheim server. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, slop out.